Progress.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Mavis.
Hello, Mavis.
And you too. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
No, I jarred and pears. And I was told I was the only person.
Good afternoon, everyone, on this beautiful spring day. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is now 4:04, and this is the meeting of the Committee of the Whole, April 26, 2022. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Allen,
Alan present. Good afternoon.
Bates,
Bates here.
Berman,
Berman here.
Brown present.
Dabbist, Ford,
Board present.
Bras, Iqbal, Gums,
Gums here.
Kenyon,
They're in the room.
Caius, Kopi,
Leonard here.
Lewis,
In the room with Mr. Kenyon.
and
Martin present.
Molina,
Molina present.
Sanchez,
Sanchez present.
Shepro,
One of two people on this side of the room present.
Silva,
That was amazing.
Silva is here.
Strathman,
You're on the far side.
Sturgis,
Deppie here, but as far from Shepro as I can get.
Wallace. Nikki.
Present on the good side of the room.
All right, I am here as well. And as you see, there is a significant imbalance between the representation on the left versus the right. A lot of doubt.
No
Depends on
comment.
where you're-
No comment.
Remember the legislative chamber in Singapore that had 150 on one side and one on the other.
All right. Mr. Shepro, why don't you lead us in the pledge?
Veterans may salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow. Right.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes only of February 22nd, 2022?
Move to approve.
Chairman second.
Kenyon would move to approve.
I'll
Give Mr.
defer to Mr. Kenyon.
Thank you, Mr.
Raise your
Kenyon.
hand, Chaparral.
Second.
And rise when you speak.
He seconds.
Oh, Nikki, is there any discussion, comments, or edits to these minutes?
Bring us in the air.
None, seeing none online. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen.
Allen, I.
Bates.
Bates, aye.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Brown.
Brown is yes.
Thank you. Davis. Ford.
Yes.
Frost.
Raj, yes.
Iqbal. Gums.
Gums, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius. Copy. Leonard.
Leonard, yes.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Silva.
Silva, yes.
Strathman. Sturgis. Deppie.
Deppie, yes.
Wallace. Wodnicki.
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Thank you. It is now time for public comment. I believe we have one individual has signed up. Is Mr. Bertha in the room? Online?
I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Bertha. Welcome. I believe this is not related to, the topic is not related to the agenda. So therefore you have 3 minutes, please.
My name is David Bertha, and I'm from the south side of Chicago. I'm suing Ashley Haynes for illegal conduct before. Can everyone hear me?
I think you could speak a little bit louder,
Yes.
please.
I'm sorry. My name is David Bertha. I'm from the south side of Chicago. I'm suing Ashley Haynes for illegal conduct performed outside the scope of her employment with this county. I expected her to pay potential damages and attorney fees out of her own pocket. But Jamie Mosser's minions filed their appearance to provide her a legal defense team. I'm not suing this county for Ashley Haynes' unlawful acts in state court because I already have a lawsuit pending against her husband in his official capacity as sheriff and this county in federal court. I expect that taxpayers in this county will eventually pay me for years of intentional discrimination as a result of my federal case. But the deep pockets that I'm pursuing against Ashley belong to Performance Health. Performance Health, its CEO and Jamie's husband all had to retain private counsel at an expense paid out of their own pockets. Let me once again read the email that Ashley's husband sent to me on January 20th. Enjoy your next criminal charges. If you want help, just talk to me like a human. Otherwise, keep on your spiral of failure. Jamie Mosser's minions will argue that my lawsuit is barred by Illinois' Tort Immunity Act, but that legislation does not protect government employees from civil litigation for illegal acts. Ashley obstructed justice when she conspired to file a criminal complaint for her husband's personal amusement and political gain. I know that Jamie won't prosecute her. But why should taxpayers pay the expense of her legal defense in civil court? Jamie is abusing taxpayer money to fund the civil defense of her husband's co-conspirator. Under the law, police are afforded limited liability for their use of physical force during the performance of their job. But there is no legal protection for a police officer that goes home to beat his wife every night. The order of protection.
Thank you, Mr. Berth. Your time is up.
I'll
Thank
see
you very
you
much.
again.
I believe there is no one else joining us from the public, laying public comment. So now we're to our presentations. Oh, excuse me. I'd like to bring up Mr. Rickard, and he will give us a brief update regarding the Long Meadow Parkway Bridge.
All right, hopefully the mic is on. It sounds like it is. Tom Rickard with the Division of Transportation. What I would like to do is just kind of go over the exciting news of the $17.5 million that was secured in the recent state of Illinois budget. When you look at the slide in front of you, I'm going to just try to hit the highlights. Our goal when Madam Chair started this effort and talking to our state legislators as well as to the governor's office was to fully eliminate the toll or reduce the toll rate and the tolling period needed to pay the bond costs. These efforts were coordinated and the 17.5 million successfully secured in the budget. This is the first installment of state funding anticipated to enable the Long Meadow Bridge to operate without a toll. The total funding sought to eliminate the toll is 35 million. To give you some background of where that 35 million came from, about 12 years ago, we started the toll bridge approach and that plan was adopted. And then in 2016, construction started on the 5.6 miles of the corridor. And then in 2018, the county board approved the toll bridge revenue bonds and pledged user fees to finance that bridge debt. So the user fees are kind of where we're at right now. And by 2023, I just put that as the anticipated opening of the bridge, and it'd probably be in about late 2023. So the toll bridge revenue bonds, where did we come up with the 35 million? The actual revenue bond amount that we received is a little over 27 million. The net debt service, principal and interest through 2048, it's a total of a 30-year bond is 46 million. But we do have the opportunity to redeem the bonds in December of 2028. And that's where the $35 million came from, because that would be the goal, is to redeem those bonds and fully pay off the debt. Ongoing efforts, we'll continue to look at additional funding in next year's state of Illinois budget to cover the entire cost needed to keep the bridge toll free. With the partial funding, staff is evaluating different toll scenarios to provide relief to the toll rate and the toll period needed to pay the bond costs. The tolling, I get a lot of questions. Why are we continuing forward with the tolling infrastructure? That infrastructure and operational contracts are ongoing with a significant portion of that work completed to date. And that's the reason why we're continuing forward until we figure out the remaining 17.5 million. Our goal is to look at relief for the toll. And so we will be looking at a toll rate that's less, as well as we'll be evaluating a way to pay off those bonds sooner rather than 2048. But ultimately, the direction and the guidance that we've been given by the county board is no toll. And so that's what we'll all be working towards, is no toll. So that's my quick update unless there's any questions.
Are there any questions? Let Mr. Fausto go first, please.
Thank you, Tom. Once again, I want to thank Madam Chairman for pursuing this money, and it shows you what having good relationships with the state reps can do. Tom, I just was wondering if you could just touch on the subject of the construction costs versus the perpetual maintenance. We were actually originally looking to have enough funds in hand to have perpetual maintenance for the bridge once the toll was completed. So I just want everybody to understand that aspect of it.
Yeah, at least at this point in time, our goal is to primarily look at paying off the debt service. And that's the number that's here. Part of the efforts would be to, like we would with a typical project, set aside some of the maintenance costs so that we're able to continue to maintain and operate the bridge and the entire Long Meadow corridor in the future. So the maintenance is one of the areas that, yes, the toll originally was going to handle it, but at this point in time, we're looking at just paying off the debt service, and the maintenance would be on the counties in the future, on the county's part in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I think Mr. Shepro had his hands up.
Yes, one of the slides, you said you're examining scenarios about providing relief. Is there, if we don't get the rest of the money, would we be looking at a possibly opening without a toll or reducing the toll? Do you have any sense of where that might be at this point?
You know, we did meet with some of our consultants and had some discussions last week. I think at Transportation Committee, I said, please be patient because it will take a little bit of time to actually work out the various scenarios. But our goal is that if we only receive the 17.5 million, there will be toll relief. That will be the focus. And we are looking at scenarios right now. You know, what is the potential of reducing it? I don't want to throw out a number without actually having some of the data as well as the what I call the runs in the data runs to make sure that it actually works. But we will be looking at a toll reduction and the potential too for the discount tags that we are looking at selling. We'll look at a further discount on those tags as well. So that is the focus, is relief for the toll if we only have the 17.5 million. We've got 1.5 years. And so hopefully we have more funding in the next budget cycle, and we're able to totally eliminate the toll.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Leonard?
Tom, my question is, I could be a wise guy and say, if we're only getting half the funding, which lane is going to be taxed?
Like that.
What you like that? We're out to late 2023. What are we ahead of schedule, behind schedule? Are we advanced and we're waiting for a final thing? What's the holdup? Why aren't we open?
We have some environmental mitigation that needs to be completed before we can do the final segment of roadway.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so that's we're currently in the engineering stage. And that once that environmental remediation occurs, it's for some lead that's within the corridor. Once that is resolved, then we'll complete the final segment of road. I believe it's about a football length, if I recall right, the lead remediation area.
Is that on the east side?
It's on the east side.
Got it. Thank you.
Just east of the bridge. If you've been out there, you can kind of see the hill that we need to remediate.
Thanks.
Madam Chair Bates, please.
Hold on, Mr. Bates. Mr. Leonard is next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom, I just wanted to go over these numbers again to make sure I've got those right. You said we have the opportunity in 2028 to retire the bond for 35 million. Is that correct?
Yes, approximately 35 million.
And was the original bond 27 million?
The revenue received was approximately 27 million.
I believe, didn't you say 2048 in your slide?
That's the
That's
full
the payoff.
30-year
That's the 30
payoff
years.
on the bond.
So I'm sorry, 2028.
2028, we would have an option of opting out, paying it off for 35 million and retiring that bond.
Sorry, thanks.
But anyhow, Tom, if I could, my question is, if I remember correctly, I think part of our idea of setting up the bonds and having money was not only to pay off our portion of the cost of the bridge, but also to set up like an annuity to help pay for maintenance of the bridge. With the 17 million that we have received, 17.5 million that Madam Chair secured, it's wonderful for us. I like the idea of being able to possibly lower that toll amount. I just want to make sure that we don't give up the idea of setting up a fund that will actually handle maintenance on the bridge throughout the next 100 years. What amount was that? Do you know, Tom?
You know, that we were trying to set aside about $10 million to be available for the future. At this point in time, we did remove that from this calculation. Our feelings were at the time was that it'd be good to be able to do that, especially with the tolls involved. But in this case, our focus has been to try to just eliminate the toll. So our focus went back to only addressing the $35 million in debt service.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Bates, please.
Yes, Ms. Bates.
Could we stop having the tolls, not have tolls for, doing my math again, like 12 and a half years, based on this $17.5 million, which is half of 35 million, and then add the tolling technology later if we don't get the extra, if we don't get more funding? Can the tolling technology go in later? Like in 12 years?
Yeah, I guess my recommendation, at least at this point in time, is you could evaluate that, but most of the improvements have already been put into place. We've already hired and did most of the work with the back office consultants, with the toll collection consultants, with the infrastructure. Most of the infrastructure is out there or being put in right now. And there's not really going to be a cost savings. What's
So
that?
Cameras for license plates and things like that, or transponders for the iPass boxes, that's all there already?
No, it's not all there, but a lot of it is already acquired. So the infrastructure is, and the operational side of thing, we're into this process significantly. And so there really wouldn't be any cost savings. Actually, it could be costly to come back and look at it in 5-10 years if we need to start looking at implementing the toll, because we're years into.
We could put in the technology and just switch it off for 12 years. We don't have to use that once it's in.
Yeah, right now the technology is going in now, and we can repurpose the infrastructure that is either in place now or will go in here shortly. We can repurpose that. So if the funds do show up, then there is a way to again repurpose. I guess I've said that a couple times, but there is a way to utilize the infrastructure out there.
So we could turn off the toll, not have tolls for many years, and hope to get more funding, and then reinstate the tolls if we had to.
Well, that's not exactly what I'm saying. At the staff level, we do need to look at scenarios and to see what's best for the public interest. And so at least at this point in time, with all the efforts and everything that's been put in, there's a lot of costs associated with that. So staff right now, at least, we're recommending that we continue to move forward until the county board has the information where a good decision can be made.
Okay.
Mr. Shepra.
I think we have to bear in mind that the bond ordinance that is in place is going to have a long list of things that the county would be required to do. And I it would be an unusual ordinance that would say you don't have to do any of them if you think you might find money down the road. I would guess that I haven't seen the bond ordinance, but I would guess that that's going to be, there are covenants that you have to basically do unless you are going to pay it all off. You can't say, I think I'm going to have money and therefore I can delay obligations that I have.
And we've started some initial conversations with our bond counsel, the county's bond counsel. I think we had our first meeting, I believe it was early last week, and we will continue to have those discussions to make sure what we can actually accomplish with the 17.5 million.
Yeah, Mr.
I
Fox?
was just kind of following up. I was going to say that it'd be very, very awkward to start a toll on a project once it's a decade old. I just can't see that ever flying.
Oh, absolutely, because it's already been a free bridge.
Decade, your equipment probably will be obsolete too.
It's real easy to eliminate a toll, but to add one. I just can't
After it's
imagine it.
used,
Yeah.
yeah, it's no, it becomes institutionalized as a free bridge. So we've got a year and a half to see what we can do. Any other further discussions on this? Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Rickard. All right, I'm now going to be turning this over to Mr. Surges, and he's going to update the board on the discussion from the elected officials compensation review committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a reminder, there was a citizens advisory committee that did some homework and some background work that was then handed to the elected official salary review ad hoc committee.
Cliff, I don't think your mic's on.
Can you hear me? Is that better? Sorry. In that ad hoc committee, we reviewed 5 specific topics: the sheriff's salary, the treasurer's, the county clerk, the county board members, and the county chair. The sheriff is kind of a really unique situation. I'm personally a pretty big fan of Ron Hain and the job Ron does. But this, and so I think many of us were very much wanting to look at Ron's salary from a comparative model against other sheriffs in the area. But the state legislature stepped in and said, we're actually going to give you the model by which you need to use. And kind of unique, we're going to help you fund that model up to 2/3. So that was very refreshing news. The model is based on a percentage of the state's attorney's salary. So everything is a little bit of a sliding scale from county to county. But in our particular case, the minimum that would be a portion to Ron would, or let me rephrase that, a portion to the sheriff would be $151,000. The committee is looking at that saying, I don't know that we're interested in paying the very bare minimum that we could possibly get away with. We're interested in looking at that at $160,000 base. So that was the recommendation that I believe was unanimous coming out of the committee. The next one that we looked at was the treasurer's office, and I'm going to combine the treasurer and the clerk together. The advisory committee was recommending a 5% increase just as a base jump, and I believe that we were unanimous on that. However, I think that there was some differing opinions on what to do from there. And the recommendation from a couple of us was the 5% increase is satisfactory. There were others that said there should be an increment that follows after that for a period of time. That's the report that I have for each of you. The urgency that we have today to report this is to make sure that we're staying ahead of the 180-day before the primary election deadline.
General election.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, general election deadline. And in order to hit that,
I'm sorry, it's December, the date of the swearing in. So when the officers are sworn in, since it's not going to vote, it has to be in December. December 3rd is the date,
so 180 days before
December 3rd.
December 3rd swearing in. My point being, there is a deadline that we're trying to get in front of. And so presenting this, while not complete, but presenting this at a committee of the whole is the appropriate way to get the information out for everyone's consideration. Okay, so you're going to be asked, to consider. I think the consensus was pretty strong on the 5% from everybody that I've spoken to offline. The question is, do you want an increment to follow that? We then went down to the county board members, and again, we had a split on that. The board members that I spoke with came out and said, we are not interested in any change. We're happy, we're satisfied with the rate that we're getting now, that being $25,000 and the availability for health benefits. There were others that came in and said, we should, we're okay with that, but we do think that there should be a small increase or a cost of living that goes along with that. And everybody has that in front of them. And it's up on screen as we speak. The last thing that we looked at is we mandatory had to discuss and review the county chair's salary. And I believe it was, there was consensus across the committee that there's no changes made at this time. Again, for the county chair, any changes that we made would not go into effect until she was up or the position was up for that normal elected cycle. We didn't feel it was appropriate for us to be addressing that at that time, but we did have the mandatory requirement to discuss it. Am I fair with the members of that committee? That Barb, you're on that, Ron, you're on it. Am I representing that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, this is Alan.
Yes, Ms. Allen.
I'm not on the committee, but I sat in on the meeting, and I think there's just a minor change. In number 5, in the second sentence where it says the salary can be reviewed again in 4 years, I believe it's to be reviewed again in 2 years, which is when the term would be up.
Correct.
So, correct, it's 24.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. We hurried these minutes through the system to make sure that we were forming the backbone, but we just met late last week and to make sure they were prepared for today. So Karen, if we can just make that small change. These notes here are not approved minutes in any capacity. So thank you for pointing that out, Deb.
It's just a typo.
Perfect.
Madam Chair Gums.
Mr. Leonard had his hand up and then Ms. Gums.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sturgis, with respect to the sheriff's increase, and I'm in favor of, increasing his pay by as much as we can, and I like the 160 recommendation. You mentioned the state covering 2/3 of the mandate. Is the mandate just for the increase or is it for the whole salary?
For the entire salary.
So in other words, if we go up to 160,000, we're looking at about 106,000 that the state would pay. We would only have to pay 45,000.
Well, we'd be saving money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
So it's not going to cost us money. We'll save money. We can put them at 160 if the county board would so agree, and we're actually reducing our costs by about $50,000 to $70,000.
You are correct.
As-
I believe that, Madam Chair, if you help me with this, and Ken, maybe, I believe the legislation was they will cover, his salary is based on 80% of whatever the state's attorney's salary is for that area of government. And then they will cover 2/3 of that salary.
So it would be at 100. My
If you
understanding.
give
of
him
it,
more,
that
they're
would be
not
on
going to
us.
cover that.
Yeah.
So,
The 10,000 difference, we'd have to pay
Yeah.
fully. But on the 150, the State would
So
pay
they're the
50%.
minimum base of the 151 is their computation.
Great,
But still, we're, to your point, we are still
saving money.
significantly ahead. Yes.
Good. Thank you.
I think Ms. Gomes was next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also was in the meeting, the ad hoc meeting last week, and I had a few thoughts, but I didn't want to butt in as it pertained to the county board salary. I did a lot of thinking from then until now, and I think that it should be up for discussion. You know, the whole board should be discussing the increase. Part of my thought process on that was, unless you are independently wealthy or a business owner, retired, this line of work, of course, we don't do it for the money, but there is substantial work that is involved in the county board position. So I just don't want to exclude demographics of individuals that otherwise might be interested in getting involved in government. So I think that we ought to have that in our thoughts when we go forward with this conversation.
Very good. Thank you. Yes. Mr. Shepherd.
Unless I missed it, there was also discussion at the committee about the benefits for board members. Was there not?
Yes.
Yes.
So the discussion at the time was, I think we were split on those members saying, or at least my conversation or my statement was that of the several board members I had spoken to, that they were satisfied with the salary that they had and were not asking for an increase, but neither were they interested in a reduction, and that reduction did include benefits. There was some Ken, there was some conversation regarding who's allowed to get benefits, and why is somebody making an exception that the county board is the only person, are the only employees allowed those benefits at the reduced structure. And the truth of the matter is our structure is based on 30 hours a week, and every employee in the county that works at least 30 hours a week has access to those same benefits.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I can't remember the percentage of
This
gums.
is
I
Ms. Gomes
apologize.
speaking. It's fine.
Sorry about that. I can't remember of the county board members what the percentage was that opted out of health insurance. I don't get it myself, but I know it was discussed and I can't remember.
50%. We have 12 members that participate and 12 members that do not.
And 13 members in total who participate in dental.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, this is John Martin. I have a question on this point.
Yes, Mr. Martin.
I thought I understood Ms. Labrillo's explanation of the insurance to say that between 30 and 40 hours, the insurance was available, but the premiums were not paid by the county. They were paid by the employee. Was I incorrect in that recollection?
Ms. Labrillo is coming to the stand.
Hello. That is between 20 and 29 hours. 21 and 29 hours that the employee is eligible to participate in the insurance plan, but they would bear the entire cost of the premium. Starting at 30 hours and more, then we do the 17% employee, 83% county split on that premium. That is required by the Affordable Care Act at 30 hours per week.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Chairman, this is Alan again.
Yes, Ms. Allen.
I just want to throw this out as an equity conversation. There were years when county employees got no raises because we were feeling, the whole country was feeling the pinch of what was going on. Now, I am a believer in unions, and I need to mention that our union people were under contract, and those contracts all involved raises of various kinds, uniforms, step, years of service and yearly percentage increases. And those contracts all went forward during the time when the rest of our employees were had their salaries frozen. So I'm going to say about 10 years ago, members of the board asked very strongly for the leadership to please consider giving raises to our non-union people as well as a sense of fairness. And so we did that for 8 years. We did 2% a year for the non-union people. It happened that I think that to some extent that coincided with what we were giving the union people as well. Though, of course, remember, there are always uniforms and steps and years of service and so on. So it's never completely equal, but at least it was a try. And we extended that to, and then interestingly, when we were looking at the salaries for countywide elected officials at the last meeting, chaired by Mr. Surgis and attended by you, Madam Chairman, it turned out that 2% was pretty even to what happened with the cost of living increases. Cost of living bounced all over the place. The average was about 2% a year. So it made us feel kind of like we were on target with that 2%. Now we extended that 2% to our management team as well, because they are certainly putting in the hours, are entitled to raises as well. And I would like us to consider doing, when we set a countywide elected official salary, I'd like us to consider putting the 2% a year increase into that as well as a matter of fairness. We want to attract good people. We want to hold on to good people. And I just think that's something that we should think about seriously. Thanks.
Yes.
Ken in here, and I think that when we're doing this, we should set the salary of the county board chair and the other elected office, being as it takes so much effort to get this process going. And we should set these salaries based on the job. Don't worry about who's there. The job. County board chairman is a big job. Whether we have an administrator or the county board chairman is there every day. It's not easy, and we want to attract the best people. We've got to be fair to them.
Madam Chair Gums.
Yes, Ms. Gums.
Thank you. You know, at the ad hoc committee, Ms. Labrillo spoke of briefly, and maybe she can refresh my memory, but there was some comparables that were done. And I can't remember the word she used, but there was an indication perhaps that if we don't act, we could be left behind. Does that sound familiar, Ms. Labrillo? Can you speak on that a little bit?
Certainly. I think the point I was trying to make when we were talking about that is there has been a lot of talk from all the counties in the area that there's a lot of evaluation of elected official salaries right now between all the counties. And as we're pulling these comparables and looking to compare our elected official salaries to theirs, we're looking at their current salary, which they are likely changing. Those salaries often in many cases like ours have been in place for as many as 10 years. So we're looking at their current salary to set our salary for the next several years. So I think if you go back 6 months from now or a year from now, you will find that many of them have raised some of those salaries because they are also evaluating them. Unfortunately, there's no way to know what they will ultimately decide to do with their elected official salaries until it's done.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
If I could add to that, I believe that the research that we did at the ad hoc level, and Blair, I don't know if you have that still to bring back up if you wanted to, but my interpretation of the data was that there's 2 to 3 to 4 variables that you can compare across counties, you know, the size of the county, the revenues of the county, the population of the county, blah, blah, blah. When we tried to aggregate those to one figure, Kane County we were right in the middle. And the conversation was very much saying, while we're in the middle today, the comparison that we're making, some of the other counties are a little bit ahead of us in terms of their structure of raising the ante. And the conversation, part of that conversation to my recollection was, by the time we get ours in place, we might be slightly behind someone else. And on that timeline or on that circle, where's the appropriate jump-in point? And Blair, that last one you had, I think was it.
That's the one we want.
Thank you so much. You think quick on your feet, my friend.
Can you also send that to the board members who are online, please, so they can review it as well?
And
Yeah, they should be able to see that.
Oh, yes, yes. To
So I
everybody,
think this
please.
is what we were looking at. And it's again, which one of these do you want to look at? Salaries, benefits, size of the community. We also had a conversation regarding the median household income of Kane County, and we went to the census information and pulled that back. And somebody had made the comment that our median household income was approximately $80,000. That was a household income. The individual income was quite a bit lower, 35,000, 37,000.
37,313, I think.
Okay.
Is the number.
Those kids.
Yeah, so I mean, you can get into figures and try and pull stuff apart, but Ken, while that includes kids, I don't believe that, I believe that we live in a modest area, and there might be some pockets, and I don't mean to speak out of line, but maybe Wayne, maybe St. Charles, maybe Geneva, have a little bit more affluence there. We certainly have other areas where when we start talking about our compensation and what we're doing, some of us are well above, even for a part-time 30-hour position. I mean, that's pretty strong comparative to what our constituents are making. And I just want to remind everybody of that. The other conversation that we've had, because somebody mentioned it and brought it up, the conversation about our peers and who do we want to be sitting next to on this board. The biggest problem that or the largest challenge that I think that we have is that we only meet during the day. I mean, so if you're a college professor or you work for a corporation, it's pretty tough to be able to say, hey, I'm going to chair a committee and, come to my meetings and, go to my cow and stuff like that when you just simply can't get out of work or away from your employer. So it really limits who we have comparative if we were, say, like a municipality that met on a Tuesday night or something like that. I think that would open, who we have available to us in terms of our contemporaries. And sometimes we ignore that. There was also some conversation within the committee regarding the health insurance benefits. And someone had mentioned to me, if I didn't have the health benefits and had to go find a job, I would no longer be able to be a county commissioner because the employer wouldn't allow me to have the time to do that. And I thought that was most interesting because I didn't consider that. Being self-employed, I consider this a service to my community. I'm able to make that happen. But you know what? If I worked for a corporation and had to request that time off, I'm not so sure they would be as flexible as I would want them to be to make that happen. So I thought that was a pretty interesting observation as well.
Yes.
Pates, please.
Yes, Ms. Pates, if I may make a comment just regarding the income, the average household income and the average personal income in Kane County. When this analysis, two things. One, this analysis was done about the 2% and 2 years of 2.5%. Indeed, that is correct. That average did keep up with the cost of living because I asked for that exercise to be done. And within a couple $100, we were.
It was
certain.
amazing, amazingly close.
It was an amazing range. However, here's the big however. We have a different year this year. We'll have a different year next year. So that cost of living is going to far exceed that potential 2%, which will bring the county just as a whole further behind without being able to keep up with the cost of living. I've had several conversations over the last few days about the cost of housing here in Kane County. And the average cost for a two-bedroom apartment in Kane County is now $1,700 per month with a 0.5 percentage point, 0.5% availability, which means that if you have an apartment or a home for rent, you can pretty much charge what you feel the market will bear, making unaffordable for our workforce. So I'm just putting that on the side as you start taking a look, not just for the elected officials, if we're looking at developing parity and equity and reach out to diverse communities of people who may be interested in running for office, but also as we go forward and we speak about compensation for our employees.
Madam Chair, on that point regarding the
I
cost of
believe I'm on
living.
the stack, Mr. Surges.
Yes, that's all right.
Pardon me?
She's, let Mr. Surges just follow up and then.
I'm so
she'll
sorry,
be
Mavis.
next.
And on this, I just wanted to point out that cost of living was taken over a 10-year period,
Correct.
which did have its peaks and valleys. And if you looked at the chart,
Oh,
some
it
mailings
is.
that some years we were a little bit ahead, some years we were a little bit behind, but over the 10 years, it was amazing that it was almost spot on.
Within a couple $100.
I mean,
absolutely.
truly, I mean, if somebody would have asked me 10 years ago, you think 2% will do it? You might as well roll the dice and go to Vegas. Are you kidding me? And it was right there.
And for the
Peaks and valleys, it was right there.
2 years at 2.5. So Ms. Bates, please.
Okay, thank you. We've had many conversations over the last month or two about how the county itself has not given the county itself a raise over the last 10 years or so, and how unsustainable that is. And I'm thinking about the board members as well, without a raise over 10 years. Is that sustainable? Doing a little bit of math, 2% increase on $25,000 a year is a kind of about $500 a year. 10 years of not having any raise at all would be a $5,000 arrears, meaning the 25,000 that we are at right now maybe should be $30,000. So that's looking at it from the point of view of these consumer price index keeping up with inflation. And now with inflation so high, we won't even go there, I guess. But it's by not giving the county board any raises at all, the county board members are sliding backwards instead of staying even. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bates.
Fraz speaking.
Sure.
On the subject of county board salaries, I guess I'll think a little bit outside the box, and I've talked to a few of you privately about this concept, but rather than a raise, I would propose a reduction in responsibility. You know, we're all on the Forest Reserve Board, which is a separate governmental agency, and we get virtually nothing. I couldn't even tell you what it is, but it's very little.
$100 a meeting.
And, you know, the interest of the county board members in the Forest Preserve varies greatly from, you know, zero to substantial. And personally, I think the Forest Preserve would be better served by a small 6 or 8 person board separate from this board with a reasonable, modest salary. But that would have to be done by referendum, I believe, or put on the ballot. But and I don't know who would start that process, but like I said, that's just something I think would be, the Forest Preserve would be better served by a dedicated board. Thank you.
Okay, no, yes, Mr. Kenyon.
A couple of thoughts. One is I think we looked at this about 6 months ago, maybe more than that now. And for a county with our population, we would have to actually amend the state statute and then have a referendum. Right now, the statute seemed to be written in a way that only DuPage County was eligible to do what they did. But substantively, I agree with you. I think the DuPage model has worked well. You've got a smaller board. The people who are on that board want to be there. It's not just, well, I got elected to the county board and now I've got to go down to the ice rink for meetings. So I think it's something, if Madam Chair could make $17 million appear, maybe she could make that amendment appear.
Probably easier than getting the next
yes.
17 million.
There's a
But
lot
I
of
also
those.
wanted to just pick up, I mean, some of us start with the notion is we knew what the job paid when we ran for it. But to the point that Cliff made, I know there's at least one member of our body presently that had to step down for a time because the employer wasn't sympathetic to the fact that the meetings, if you're conscientious, if you go to more than just your 2 or 3 committees, and most of us do, even with Zoom, it's tough to say you're working 5 days a week for your employer if you're being a conscientious board member. So I think that's something that ought to be seriously looked at, because the other point, Cliff, you made is the counties, just looking at their numbers can be very misleading in terms of how their board operates. In many cases, some of them don't have all the elected officials that we do. Case in point, McHenry County has a combined clerk and recorder. Cook County doesn't have an elected auditor. I mean, there are lots of differences in how things are put together, and I think you've got to look at and the meeting date itself. It's tough sometimes to do all we do, and the thought of starting at 7 o'clock and going to midnight may not be great. But I think there's definitely, retired people. We don't have the same time constraints. And if we're old enough, as many of us are, we don't need to worry about the health insurance because we got Medicare. But we're not allowed to say you get health insurance if you rely on people to take it. I haven't seen the breakdown, but I would guess that many of the people that don't take the insurance have it available from another source. At the same time, you really don't like the idea that somebody is running for the board because they get the insurance. But, we used to have a per diem system where people got a per diem each time they went to any meeting. And there were some people, I remember one that was, Drew knows who I'm talking about, who could, and so does, I think, Ms. Warnicki, but per diem in Latin supposedly means per day. It doesn't mean like 6 per diems per day, but there were people who are good at that. And we abolished that, and I think rightly so. The notion is you go to a meeting because you think it's important that you do that, not because you can pocket some more money. But I guess personally, again, I'm lucky. I don't need the money. As long as my wife keeps working. But the problem is that even if we were to say we deserve a raise and we work hard, you're up against the fact that, as was mentioned, housing prices have gone through the roof. Car prices have gone through the roof. If you're heating your home with natural gas, it's doubled. If you're buying gasoline, it's gone up to $5 or $6 a gallon, and I suspect is going higher. The inflation numbers make the 2% estimates, which were remarkably consistent for a decade. I think that's all over in the foreseeable future. And I remember the comments of one current board member when this came up, I guess 2 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And her comment was, a lot of my constituents would like a raise too, but they're not getting one. So I think, again, I wish that there was a different method of setting the salary, like an independent commission or something, because it's awkward to say, I deserve a raise and I'm voting for it. So I'm not sure what I want to do with it. But I'm troubled by the idea that we give ourselves a raise and there's constituents out there that, can't afford that Starbucks coffee that we've heard about.
So.
Thank you. Mr. Martin.
I think that the conversation is heading in a, to me, kind of an odd direction. I've always perceived that when you run for the county board, you do so because you're at a point in time in your life when you want to become involved and you want to give back to the county. And now we're talking about cost of living and the cost of an apartment and the cost of gasoline. And the fact is, we're not talking about community service. This to serve on the board, in my opinion, ought not be a money producing activity. I was surprised to find out that we got paid. I think we get paid. I think the comment, if I remember the comment of the Citizens Committee, we make what all the mayors make around here, probably with the exception of Aurora and I would assume Elgin. You know, this, I don't know what people are looking at, but if you're looking at the finances, this job plus health insurance isn't a bad gig. And to suggest that we ought to raise it, to me, I find it to be, you know, first off, I'm not in favor of it, okay? And I don't think that the votes are here to eliminate the health insurance. I don't support the health insurance. So maybe that separates me. I guess it separates me from at least 12 people on the board as to a state of mind, but I can't think of talking about the board's involvement in terms of what it's going to cost me to pay my mortgage next month. This is supposed to be community service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Madam Chairman, Allen,
Yes, Miss Allen.
I want to make a differentiation here between the county board and the county-wide electeds in this way. The county board is 24 of us and we all serve differently. I have to say that I've never seen a board serve as well or as consistently as the one that's sitting here right now. And you know, I've been here for 20 years. I've been really honored to be here for 20 years. This is a hardworking board and I'm so admiring and so grateful to be part of it. But it's still, for us, it's still a part-time job, and we do the job the way we think best, and with the time that we have and the energy we have and the intelligence and wisdom that we bring to bear. But the county-wide elected officials are people who show up every day. It's a full-time job for them. And we have been really lucky to have people with all kinds of credentials and certificates on the walls, and people who, Madam Chairman, I know you were prepared to work hard, but I can't believe you were prepared to work this hard. So I just think that we need to give some special thought to the people who have these jobs as full-time jobs. And that's why I was making the recommendation that I did. Thanks for letting me.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Iqbal.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I will be short. I have raised this issue before, ever since I came to this board, that this is a part-time position. Today I am hearing that it's a 30-hour position. It's not a 30-hour position. It's a part-time position, and the part-time employees don't get paid here, and they don't get paid in any industry. I concur with Mr. Martin that this is a community service. So I would be opposing the health insurance and dental insurance for the members and their families. I believe it should be just a salary, whatever it is, just make it very transparent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kenyon.
Kenyon, I want to admit, when I ran for the board, I didn't know we got paid. And I was quite surprised that we did. I don't advocate an increase for us, but I think the county-wide elections, we have to attract people who are going to give up a good full-time job, whatever it is, and be here every day. So we should pay them better, and it should be based on the job, not the person. So I don't think we need any more money. But I think the electeds do need more money because they're giving up a job to be here, most of them.
It is.
And I'm
our-
just doing it for fun, what the hell? I mean, I just love meetings and
is an incredibly passionate, overwhelming, incredible opportunity, and it's an
I'm gonna write a
amazing,
book.
it's
see
an
how they
amazing
come up with
honor.
money for the thing.
It's an amazing honor to serve in this position.
Yeah.
Mr. Leonard, and then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one question with respect to what we need to do here. We probably have that same 180-day deadline
Yes.
to make a decision on this. And if we have to go through committees and then to the county board, I think we have to get a plan of action here to decide what direction we want to go.
That's exactly correct. My thought is that at the May board meeting, this would be discussed. And we can have a special board meeting introduced to the full board. It should go to executive first. Then it's going to go to the full
Finance?
board. No,
Does it have to go to
no,
finance?
just to exec,
Okay.
then to the full board. If you are not ready to make a decision at that point, we'll hold a special board meeting with its only focus will be on the vote for this. But I'm going to push you gently and well, that you do make a decision by the end of May. So before Memorial Day, please.
Madam Chair, if I can.
Yes.
Surges, any of the data that anybody might want from the ad hoc committee or the Citizens Advisory Committee, we're happy to make available. I mean, most of it was online, most of it's there, but if somebody needs something, don't hesitate, reach out. The entire point of discussing this at the committee of the whole was to get this on the table so we could expeditiously move forward. Madam Chair, am I correct there?
That's correct.
So if there's anything you need, any questions you have, don't spend 3 weeks researching it. Reach out. We may have already done it for you. So.
Okay. Mr. Shepro and then
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Frost.
just wanted to make a comment about the part-time, full-time issue. If 30 hours is the cutoff, I know there are people in this room on this board that spend 30 hours a week easily on what they do. And to, if you have an opinion about the insurance, that's fine. But I think just as I was not pleased that some of the people on the advisory group, not your committee, but that sat there and said, well, the board members don't do anything. I think they need to pay more attention to what goes on. And I think, we all know some of the people in this room that probably spend maybe not 30 hours a day, but pretty close to full time with committee chairmanships and issues that come up. And, how that figures in, again, I do agree. And the reason I brought up those other points that Mr. Martin talked about was simply to indicate why I also am troubled with the idea that we would give ourselves a raise. Because I think it is about public service at the end of the day. And if there are changes that we could make organizationally, like meeting times, that would help people, I think maybe they should be looked at. But the notion that this board does not work hard, I think is not true. I think most of us probably do put in full time, not just sitting in this room, but going to constituent meetings, dealing with boards. Some of us don't have to deal with constituents, but out in the West, that's the only person they can talk to. So not to be overly self-congratulatory, I think this is a hardworking board. I agree with Mrs. Allen's comments. And, does that translate into getting more money? I personally don't think I'll vote for it, but not because I don't think that we don't work hard.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to give this discussion 5 more minutes because I promised everyone that we'd be out of here by 5:30. So we've got 2 more questions So Mr. Frost and then Ms. Gomes.
Proud speaking. I totally support the increase of salary for the chairman. You know, I've been privileged to work under 3 different chairmen, and it's unbelievable how much work it is. The one thing I have done a complete turnaround on is I'm a big supporter now of the concept of a county administrator. So I guess what I'm wondering, or maybe something we could think about, is if we were to give a raise or to the chairman, could we do it? Is it possible to do it a 2-tier system where the salary would be at one level under the current system we have? But if we had a county administrator, personally, I think it should be a lower salary, possibly like 75,000 or 3 times a county board member salary. But just something to think about, because we would have to come up, looking at this chart here, it looks like a county administrator would cost us about 175 a year. And I've already discussed a few ways that we can maybe pull a few dollars here and there to help offset that cost. But I'm just throwing it out there that, salary for the county board chair as it stands, and salary for the county board chair should a county administrator come on board.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, could you refresh when for the chair, even if we were to vote an increase, that wouldn't kick in until
24, December of 24.
December of 24.
Next election.
It could be changed by the next board also.
It absolutely could.
authorizing something that
Doesn't
did
take
nothing
effect.
For
yeah,
2.5 years, yeah.
Why do it?
Correct.
or just doing it in 2.5 years.
So if we did eventually go with a county administrator, we wouldn't have to wait 10 years to adjust that salary.
No.
That's correct. That is
Thank you.
correct. That's
I just want to
accurate.
make sure that was clear.
Hold on, Ms. Gomes. And then the last question, Ms. Gomes.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank Mr. Shepro and Ms. Allen as well. I can only go by what my predecessors have said, and I believe this board works very well. I will congratulate you, Mr. Shepherd, because you deserve it. You work hard. You work very hard. And so you don't have to do a self-appreciation. I'll do that for you. Also, I think folks that are of the impression that we work a part-time job perhaps do not understand the amount of effort that goes into phone calls to constituent contacts. And comprehensive reading is something that, if we're doing this job right, it takes a very lot of time. So I just wanted to put those words out there and congratulate Mr. Shepro.
Thank you.
Very good. Yes, Mr. Berman.
Well, I was saying with I don't think there's any reason to talk about increasing the chairman or changing the chairman's salary at this point in time, because it's not going to go into effect until 2 years, and it certainly can be changed by the board anytime within those 2 years. So I think we need to wait until that 180 days from that the chairman's term is up. Who knows what we're going to do between now and then? So, yeah.
And
The other thing.
Hold on, Ms. Gomes.
The other thing I got, having been in elected office for 45 years, especially at the municipalities, we certainly didn't have the benefits that we have. Most of the municipalities don't have the benefits that we have at the county, and we certainly don't have anything near what the salary is. We used to talk about, boy, if we were on the county board, we'd be making all the big money compared to what was being paid in the municipality. So what we do is a labor of love, and the best we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank
I just missed,
Yes, Ms. Gomes.
Gums, I apologize. I just forgot to throw this little tidbit in there. Mr. Shepro had also discussed something that didn't sit right with me. We don't vote on a raise for ourselves. None of us are guaranteed to be elected again. This is for the position. And I think just for the general public, oftentimes that can be spun to say, hey, they gave themselves a raise. Nobody is allowed to give themselves a raise. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Good, excellent clarification.
true.
Very true. All right, I think we've had We've had a lot of conversation on this, just so I would like to stop this conversation. Future conversation can be had. Please feel free to call me, Ms. Labrillo, Mr. Surges. And if we can answer any questions on any research or data that we may have, we'd be happy to share that with you. I'd be happy to loan you my file and you can browse through it and return it, please. We can have a lending library if you so need.
2 cents a day if it's late.
It cannot be removed from the third floor though, because it's to be shared. But you can make copies. We have a copy machine. So with that, I believe we have to go into executive session now. So may I have a motion and a second to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee?
Bates moves.
Surges.
Second, Sheffro.
Mr. Shepro seconds. Clerk, please call the roll.
Him and his placement right on this important code.
Allen,
Allen.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown, Davis, Ford, Bras,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Copy, Leonard,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Strathman, Sturgis,
Yes.
Debbie, yes.
Wallace, Wonecki,
Yes.
Okay, everybody that's online, please wait for your invite to accept that, to join the closed session. Be aware that anything you say while we're in this transition will be still going out live to YouTube until I give you the all clear that we are in the closed session. So please accept those invites and give us a minute or so to get transitioned over.
I agree.
Well, then stop making silly.
Oh, I have got something in my eye. that doesn't want to-
Somebody might take
I
it.
think it's this.
whatever
There's-
was in your.
yeah. It's something in the room.
Good for everybody else.
The county, if we meet during the day.
Do a roll call again.
Yes.
Okay, we're still waiting for somebody to join.
True. Let me see that.
I was sitting here when I got here. No, I had a discussion
When I start.
Yeah, just one more moment for YouTube to catch up.
Huh?
Dinner
Oh.
So it's a date night.
It's so much more fun, Rod.
We go to the restaurant.
Okay, you are in open session.
Okay, we are now in open session. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Allen, Bates,
Here.
Berman,
Herman here.
Davis, Ford, Bras,
Here.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Gums here.
Kenyon,
Here.
Caius,
Caius present.
Kopi, Leonard,
Leonard here.
Lewis,
Lewis here.
Martin,
Martin present.
Molina,
Molina present.
Sanchez,
Sanchez present.
Shepro,
Shepro present.
Silva,
Silva's here.
Strathman, Surges,
We're just here.
Tepe,
Deputy here.
Wallace, Wodnicki.
Present.
Pirog.
Here, may I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
I would move that we adjourn.
Shepro second.
Second, do I have consensus?